What's up, everybody? Good afternoon. We've got a few things to cover today in the news category. This first one's old. This first one was several hours ago. You guys mostly probably already know about this, but I didn't feel the need to treat it like breaking news when I already talked about it a bunch yesterday. Yesterday, when I talked about the Jason Peters situation, I had a pretty good feeling that we were going to sign him. There's no reason not to. And if he wants to still play football, there's no reason for him not to sign up. So I felt like yesterday, when it was reported we were going to have Peters in for a visit, he was inevitably going to sign. But it is official now, as of a few hours ago. Jason Peters has been signed to the Seahawks practice squad. So we now have a plan in place to deal with the potential Charles Cross issue. So Jason Peters, like I said yesterday, 41 years old, 41, but nine-time Pro Bowler, probably future Hall of Famer. This is not just any tackle. This is a tackle who is one of the best of his era. This guy is very, very special. This guy has had an incredible career. So he's got more left than the average 41-year-old. Now, how much does he have? Because the average 41-year-old has nothing left. So that's not necessarily saying that much. But Jason Peters, I'm pretty confident we're getting something better than Stone Forsythe here. So you look at PFF, and you guys know I don't think PFF is perfect, but I think they provide a pretty decent overhead view of things. Jason Peters, last year, played for the Cowboys under somewhat similar circumstances to what is going on with the Seahawks right now. He was a Cowboy last year, 235 snaps, allowed one sack, and had a grade on PFF of 70.3. Pretty good. Not amazing, not elite, but pretty dang good. 70.3. If he played that well for us this year, I think we'd all be pretty happy about it. So, not a hyper elite player anymore, but somebody who last year at 40 years old was still playable. And he played multiple positions for the Cowboys last year. He was a left tackle, he was a right tackle, he was a left guard, he was a little bit of tight end. And for most of his career, he's been a left tackle. So if you left him at left tackle the whole season, he might do a little bit better. So I'm not suggesting that Jason Peters is going to come in and be the Jason Peters that we know of from his prime. Of course, that's just goofy. But I think that you look at this and you have a player who is at least better than what we have right now behind Cross. So on that level, yeah, good news. By the way, the year before that, when Jason Peters was playing in 2021, he played most of the season, and his grade was actually excellent, 77.5. And this was a year he played pretty much every snap at left tackle. He played 6 at tight end, but 847 snaps at left tackle. So if you put him at left tackle full time, he might be even a little bit better than he was last year, for all we know. So I think that this is good news. Now, there is, of course, the downside, which I talked about yesterday. The fact that we're signing Jason Peters means that Charles Cross has an injury that is not just something to be completely blown off. We think it's serious enough that it will cause him to potentially miss time. And Jason Peters must have a pretty good idea that Cross is going to miss a little bit of time, or else he wouldn't sign. I don't think Jason Peters is coming out of semi-retirement so he can sit behind another player, just sit on the bench and watch, or only play on special teams or something like that. No, he's coming back because he believes he's going to play. So that's kind of the bummer here. Charles Cross has an injury that is not trivial. It's not the end of the world, but it's not nothing either. And the other kind of unfortunate element here is that while Jason Peters being here is nice, how long is it going to take for him to actually be able to play? And to kind of get an idea of this, you have to look at what he did last year for the Cowboys. Jason Peters signed with the Cowboys on September the 5th last season. It was September the 5th. And those first 2 games, he did not play. He did not start playing until the 26th, where he played 14 snaps, then 21 snaps, and then he skipped a week, played 4 snaps, 9 snaps, 13 snaps. So they paced him. they never played him a ton in any one game until the end of the season when he actually played 100% of the snaps in Week 18 against Washington. And then he was actually the starter again, although he only played about half the snaps in Tampa the next week. So what I'm trying to say here is that this could take some time, and time is not something we really have right now because Cross is hurt now. So understand that we added him to the practice squad for a reason. He needs time to get up to where he needs to get to be in football shape. Last year, it took him like 3 weeks to get to the point where he could actually play football. This year, I gotta believe it's going to take at least that long. So maybe this is something we should have tried to do. We tried to address weeks ago, and not Jason Peters, because it couldn't have been Jason Peters. I don't think he would have come out to be a pure backup, but somebody somewhere better than Stone Forsythe. So I guess that's an L on our forehead. But hey, at least we're trying to do something, and at least this is something that actually has a chance to be pretty good. Now, the other things I wanted to cover real quick, just in the realm of more interesting anecdotes, while we're talking about old and established tackles that we could sign, because we have a problem on both sides, Abe Lucas is also ailing. The Bengals released right tackle La'el Collins earlier this morning. He was on the PUP list, but if he is able to go soon, or maybe even now. Like, I don't know what's going on here. They released him and he was on the PUP list. Does that mean that he's ready to play, but they just didn't want to activate him? So they decided, let's just let him go because we don't need him anymore. We don't want him anymore. I don't know exactly what's going on with La'el Collins, but maybe this is the guy you consider bringing in to deal with the Abe Lucas situation, because that's not really any better. So you go to PFF, you look at last year. La'el Collins played most of the season. Didn't play great, but he didn't play terrible, right? This is not anything on the Jermaine Ifedi level. This is not some awful player. This is not second-year Brandon Shell tier. This is okay football, and maybe that's better than having Abe Lucas out there limping around. And the year before that, by the way, 2021, I don't want to go too far back in the past year, he was actually really good, like great even, 82 grade. So maybe you sign two aging although La'el Collins is nowhere near as old as Jason Peters, obviously, but he's obviously somebody who's on the downslope of his career. Maybe you bring in La'el Collins to be insurance for Abe Lucas the same way you're bringing in Jason Peters. I don't know. It's a decent idea, but we got to move on this quickly. We got to move on this very quickly if we're going to move on it at all. If we feel like Abe Lucas just had a fluke flare-up and he's going to be fine, then okay, but just know that you're betting on it now. We've seen it now happen in an actual game where he had to come out. He had to leave an actual NFL game because it was so bad. So if that happens again and you didn't do something to get insurance for it, that's on you. And the only other thing I want to highlight right here is in the realm of some good news. Pete Carroll says Devin Witherspoon should be good to go for week 2. So we are going to get Witherspoon back this week, it looks like. Great news. I'm not saying he's going to save this defense. It's going to take a lot more than any one or even two players to fix this defense. But, hey, it's got to be better than what we had. Devin Witherspoon was the number 5 overall pick. Mike Jackson and Trey Brown, those guys are just kind of bobbing around the league. They have their moments, but overall, there's no doubt who's going to be better in the league when all is said and done. All right, I'll see you guys later. Go Hawks. That's the roundup. Let me know what you guys think about it all.